Welcome to Two Girls in a Pod Life's Journey, where we explore the journey of becoming the best version of ourselves. Join me, Christy, and my partner Sharon, a licensed professional counselor for over 20 years, as we dive into conversations with inspiring individuals who've overcome obstacles and achieved their goals. We'll discuss the power of self-awareness, compassion, and collaboration, and how embracing our authentic selves can create a ripple effect of positive change. Let's embark on this path of growth, empowerment, and connection together. I want to remind you to follow us on social media. If you love this podcast, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and Blue Sky. If you'd like to find out more about what goes on behind the scenes, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Adventures of Two Girls in a Pod, where we highlight some of our travels near and far. Or watch Sharon mix up a batch of drinkable delights on Sip and Savor. Also, if you love this podcast, leave us a review on Spotify. This helps us get discovered by even more amazing listeners like yourself. Share with your friends and family, and make sure to subscribe to our website at twogirlsinapod.com so that you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening.
Hello and welcome, Two Girls in a Pod.
Yes, thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We're going to jump right in. We have a guest with us today. We are super excited to sit down and speak with double board certified dermatologist and surgeon, Dr. Angela Casey. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me, Sharon and Christy. It's a real honor to connect with your community.
We're always so excited when we see people who are doing things that are about really enhancing or helping people to keep that authenticity about who they are internally and externally. So we're talking about dermatology. That's kind of the external, but external impacts our internal. So talk with us a little bit about your journey of how you got into this and why it became a passion for you.
Yes, I think you put it so well, Sharon. External impacts are internal, but also what we see so often in dermatology is how internal impacts external. And it's our job as dermatologists to kind of be the detectives and use those findings on the skin to get to the root of something that might be going on within us. Just to give your community a little bit of background on what I do and kind of how I'm approaching that overall wellness and from a more holistic standpoint. So I still practice dermatology and something called Mohs surgery 5 days a week. So I still practice full time. Mohs surgery is a very specific type of skin cancer surgery where I actually surgically remove skin cancers in my practice. I examine that skin that I've removed under the microscope and map out the cancer in a three-dimensional way in order to clear it. And then I perform reconstructive surgery on the patient. So that's kind of the focus of my practice. How does that relate to overall wellness? Well, with skin health, so many of us grew up in an era where we didn't have the tools and knowledge to properly take care of our skin. So, any of us who are maybe like millennials, Gen X's, and beyond that, we really didn't have all of the knowledge and resources that we have access to nowadays. I'm also the mom of three teen and tween daughters. So it was so critical to me to empower their generation with all the knowledge and tools that I wish I had at that age. And how can we teach them and then provide those resources for them to properly care for their skin? And then in doing so, build confidence and start that lifelong journey towards skin health. And doing so that we can prevent so much skin damage and so many of the skin cancers that I'm treating in my practice every day. And through Bright Girl Skincare, which is my skincare line that's really geared towards Gen Z and Gen Alpha because that's the ages of our three daughters. We are really kind of giving them the reins and giving them a brand that speaks to them in terms of health and wellness and self-care with that focus and kind of niched in skin health. So that's kind of a broad overview. I'll stop there because I'm sure there are questions or you kind of guide me in where you want the conversation to go from there.
Well, I think it's really interesting, and I've seen this, and just to get, but there's kind of been an uptick in skin cancer.
Yes.
It's male and female in different ages that they're seeing
Mhm.
skin cancer. So isn't that tied in really to our self-care of our skin to begin with? So
Yeah.
when you're talking about that, what is it though, what are those things that you would tell people about? What are some of the things that they can do that would really be beneficial to them?
Absolutely. So you are so correct. Skin cancer is the most prevalent cancer worldwide. It's the number one. It actually, the incidence of skin cancer outnumbers all other cancers combined. A lot of people don't know that statistic. We give a lot of attention to breast cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer in the media at large. But when you add up all those other cancers combined, skin cancer still outnumbers that. Skin cancer will affect 1 in 5 Americans by age 70, so it is very prevalent, and there is a good chance that you or someone you know will suffer from skin cancer in our lifetime. The good news is it's also one of the most preventable forms of cancer, so that's, like, such a win, and that is our goal with Bright Girl Skincare and with the preventative skin health movement at large. How can we get ahead of that skin damage and really equip our younger generations and generations really at any stage, because the sooner you start those habits, the better, to properly care for their skin and prevent the damage that will lead to a skin cancer. It is actually very simple, Sharon and Christy. The simple act of putting on a broad spectrum sunscreen every day. You want an SPF 30 or higher, ideally a mineral sunscreen. So you'll look for sunscreens that have zinc oxide or titanium dioxide as the active ingredient, and applying that to your skin every day. That one simple habit that takes no more than 30 seconds to apply it to sun exposed skin can prevent so much sun damage and skin cancers. We know that 90% of non-melanoma skin cancers are directly linked to ultraviolet exposure. So it's a clear correlation that ultraviolet exposure is the cause, sunscreen is the prevention. And the way I explain it to our young people through Bright Girl Skincare and to my patients, frankly, it's skincare and sunscreen should be just like brushing and flossing your teeth every day, something we're all very familiar with, and obviously something that we continue that lifelong. With skincare and sun protection, we really should be starting those habits in childhood, in teenage years, and even before that, as parents taking care of our children. And in doing so, we can really change that trajectory of skin health. Another important fact I just want to point out for your audience, the skin cancers that I'm treating in my office today did not start 5 or 10 or even 20 years ago. They started when that patient was a child and a teenager, and that patient was maybe working on the farm, they were out playing sports, they were just out recreationally with friends. That is where the damage is rooted. So if we are not talking to our young people and really getting them excited about their skincare and then the self-care that comes from that, because I do want to loop that into the conversation at some point, then we're really doing them a disservice.
Well, I think when we keep the antiquated ideas of if it was 50 years ago, well, we have to understand that you move forward 50 years or whatever it is, and you're going to find that also our sun, the UV, all of those things have changed. So you kind of can't use the same things that were working 50 years ago today. And I think that's where it's hard to get people to bridge from the old to the new ideas.
Yeah, you're so right, Sharon. I think people have a lot of preconceived notions and they are drawing back on their own experience of like, oh, I used a mineral sunscreen and it was so thick and pasty and it was like horrible and greasy and it got everywhere. Or they had skincare products. I know my generation, so I'm a Gen Xer. We did everything we could to strip and dry out and like just take every single thing off of our skin. We thought the more abrasive, the better, the more drying, the better. So as adults, we're still kind of reflecting on that. And I'm sure all of your listeners can relate. Like for all of you who are listening, think about those products that you used when you were 16 and 18 years old. And I'm sure we could all swap a lot of very entertaining stories. But so we draw upon that, and you're so right. We've come very, very far from a clinical perspective, from a cosmetic chemistry perspective, and our products and the ingredients and what we know about the skin and how to care for it has evolved so dramatically that we now realize that we're in an era where it is so critical to nourish and support the skin. So rather to strip and dry and exfoliate, we want to replenish and restore and moisturize and selecting the proper products to achieve that. We also know there's tremendous power in a daily self-care skincare routine and that simple act. Wash your face, moisturize, put on your sunscreen does so much for preventing acne, eczema, sensitive skin, seborrheic dermatitis, common conditions that individuals may deal with. So it really, like, if you take away all the marketing noise, we can strip it down to a very simple regimen. The issue, too, is not only are we kind of reflecting on what we knew growing up, but then we've got so much marketing coming at us telling us that we need to do this ingredient and this serum, and we need to have 8 steps to our routine. And we see that on social media. It's talked about. So, one of my goals for this podcast, let's really empower your audience with the straight evidence-based information that I can provide as a dermatologist and where the data lies when it comes to that.
Exactly. And I think it's a vital message because you think about the messages that you received when you were younger. I know for me, even though I used sunscreen at times, the bigger message that was prevalent with me is getting that golden tan in that. And it wasn't about necessarily protecting your skin. It was get out there, lay in the sun with the baby oil on to really bake yourself. That's what I thought.
100%, Chrissy. It was a status symbol, right? Like if you came back to school and you were tan, or maybe you were even a little sunburned and freckly, it was like, oh yeah, like I went on vacation. And all of us sitting on this conversation right now, we're pretty fair skinned, right? So like we've probably each had like a sunburn or two. I've had like dozens of sunburns in my life. You can see I'm very fair skinned, but that so much was the era we grew up in. My first sunscreens were like Hawaiian Tropic Deep Tanning Oil, SPF 4, get that deep bronze tan. And my skin did not have an easy time tanning because I am so fair. I see that in my practice all the time. Those fair skinned patients that just tried and tried to get a tan, like you're saying, it was all, that was trendy and popular. Thankfully, we are in a day and age now where we are seeing a lot of celebrities and influencers that have very fair skin and they're embracing that and not always trying to change or be tan. So I'm thankful for that, that my daughters, who are now 17, 14, and 11, can see some of those positive role models, which is different from what we grew up with, right? Where most of the celebrities did have that nice tan and that, nice golden sun-kissed look.
Well, and I think how many people just don't even understand their own skin type. She can go out and sit in the sun for an hour and get nothing. I can be in the sun for 15 minutes and tan. It's just our different skin types. But people will then compare themselves to that person that tans quickly, but and well, I want to do that. And then you're out there for an hour and you're just going to turn like a lobster. It's like how do we educate people on the type of skins that they have? And not even I think that isn't even the case. It doesn't matter what your skin type is we still have to take care of it at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And I think you really nailed it. We have to listen to our skin. We have to take a very individualized approach. There is never a one size fits all when it comes to skincare, sun protective habits. It's just not the same and it cannot be generalized. Yes, we can say, I will say in a general sense, putting on sunscreen every day is important no matter what your skin tone, even the darkest African American skin tones still need sunscreens. We see skin cancers in them. They're maybe not as prevalent as they are in fair skinned individuals, but we are still seeing that. Likewise, we have to appreciate those differences. Do you have oily skin? Do you have dry skin? Do you have sensitive skin? Do you have skin that's acne prone or not? And then really tailoring a skincare regimen to that. So it is confusing because in this day and age when we are seeing influencers that have beautiful skin and they're using a regimen, our young people want to mimic that exact regimen. And there are two issues with that. One is that individual who's the influencer may not have the same skin type as the person watching. But secondly, it's often our teens and tweens that are watching those influencers who are in their 20s and 30s. And skin in our teens and tweens is very unique. That skin barrier is not fully developed. Our skin microbiome is evolving. And that was a big incentive behind creating Bright Girl because I was seeing my own daughters gravitate to brands that were really appropriate for more mature skin that can handle that. And when my daughters were using those brands, they were getting breakouts, they were getting rashes, they were getting skin sensitivities, etc. So you not only have to respect your individual skin type, but you have to respect where you are in your life journey. And for all of us, men or women, hormones are a big part of that, but women are especially susceptible to hormones during puberty and through all the teen years, during pregnancies, during menopause and beyond. And I think any of us who have been through some of those stages can appreciate how our skin was different during those eras of our lives compared to where we sit now.
Well, I think it's interesting when we're talking about health. I'm grateful that we're moving more into taking care of mental health, but we talk about the physical health, we talk about the mental health and those kind of things. But when we talk about physical health, I don't hear a whole lot of people talking about skincare. It's almost like go out, lose weight, do this, do that. But our skin is like our largest organ, isn't there something to that effect?
It
See, I,
is our
I
largest.
listened in that class.
Yeah, yes, you did. I love it when people know that fact. It makes me so happy. And yes, the message is getting out there. But you are absolutely right, Sharon. So first of all, when we are stressed, which I think is going to tie into something that's very core to your community, when we are stressed, that shows up in our skin. And we have probably all experienced that going into finals, competing in a sport. We've been sleep deprived. So that will show up as inflammation in our skin. And that is why so many people will flare with acne or eczema during times of stress. For so many of us, we are not sleeping enough in this day and age. So I'm going to put that out there as a challenge to your community. Like, focus on your sleep when it comes to your skin health. Even beyond sunscreen and skincare, that is probably the single most important thing you can do for your overall wellness, but it is so critical for your skin health. That is key. So we see that certainly that stress showing up, and likewise just with self-care and how that feeds into our mental health. So and I think for all of us, but especially for our younger people in their teens and 20s, when they are doing that simple ritual that maybe some may view as superficial or indulgent, it is really self-care, and that's how I look at skincare, and I tell people all the time, like, self-care is health-care. If we are not doing those simple things and skincare, it's a low-hanging fruit. It's a lot easier to do a skincare routine than it is to go and make a goal of, "I'm gonna run 3 miles every day," or, "I'm gonna, like, cut all the sweets out of my diet." Like, it's a pretty easy thing to implement, but it is something that kind of checks that box of I've done something nice for myself today. You feel good afterwards. You're investing in yourself. So it's such a win from that perspective. It's not expensive to do. So we can incorporate that. Another point I just want to bring up too is that when we don't care for our skin, there are actually a lot of clinical studies that show that inflammation in our skin. So if we're not moisturizing it properly or caring for it, that actually translates to inflammation in our bodies. That is the root of so many diseases. Actually, putting on lotion on your whole body after you take a shower or a bath is actually really important for your internal health. And I think that's something a lot of people don't know or appreciate. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's interesting because we often see low self-esteem in our youth. And how many of them would feel so much better if to do one simple act that really has the ability to elevate that self-esteem. We have to do this whole reshuffle on what are our prioritizations when it comes to our physical, mental, spiritual health, all of that stuff. But we're still doing that thing where we're identifying this as the biggest thing, so we're only gonna work on this, and not understanding we are one unit here. We're not.
I think we do that a lot of times. We categorize different things and see it as a separate, but it's so important to the whole for all of your well-being. When you start breaking it down and looking at each of these things, I think it seems like, you can really tell the people that drink more water, the hydration, the difference in the skin, not just clear skin, but you just look healthier. And I think that it impacts your overall wellness. You feel better.
You're so right, Christy. So, how do we present ourselves to the world, right? Our skin is kind of first and foremost. We can be, maybe not dressed as nicely or our hair is not done, but like when somebody has radiant skin, like you notice that and you appreciate it. And it feeds back just into what you were saying, Christy, about that overall wellness. So I think for many of us, we really do prioritize that because we want to be viewed as positive and healthy and having good energy. It's the same way we might or same reason we might style our hair a certain way. Like, Sharon, you've got beautiful, fun hair. It's like part of your personality, right? Like, people see that and they like automatically get this like warmth, and it's like there's a connection there. It's the way that we dress for some of us, we prioritize that. But our skin is the same way. So when it is that glowing, healthy radiance, and that's coming through, it's like kind of this automatic, like positive, like external appearance that you're putting out into the world. And for our young people, that builds so much confidence. And I do think it builds confidence for us at any age, no matter where we are. When our skin is dull or it's broken out or it's inflamed, we got acne lesions, we maybe just don't feel quite as confident. So, what are those simple steps that we can do to help individuals reach those goals?
I think it's so interesting because we just did an interview in the last podcast that we just put on is AI and basically self-image. And she's an artist who basically takes an AI picture because and so when our youth are looking at these things, they're seeing them as, "Oh my goodness, this is the real thing," not understanding that a lot of that is enhanced. So she basically puts it through AI. Her whole process is really interesting. Then she just shows how many places AI has been used in something and how it distorts. And I think that's what it is. It's people are having a harder time discerning what's real and what's not real. And I think when you're seeing, especially young kids who they're really on the cusp of this AI generated stuff and using AI and doing things like this, and how many of them are using those filters even when they're putting their own faces out there because they're not okay with the way their skin looks or those kind of things. It's such a hard thing to get them motivated to take care of their own skin when I can just use a filter.
Oh, yeah,
I got
you're absolutely
mentality
right.
anyway.
Right. They're the generation of instant gratification, right? If there's an easy way to do it, if there's a shortcut, I mean, they have absolutely grown up with that. And it's challenging. And you think about how we grew up, and already it's such a tricky time where like during adolescence, where you're trying to figure out who you are, where you fit in, what your values are, what do
Mhm.
you want to be in your life? You've got all of that. Like we all have experienced that. And then for our young people, then they have, like you said, all these like false images and expectations, and then the validation that comes from people liking their posts and how many likes. And it breaks my heart. My own girls go through this. Like, oh, yeah, like I put up this post and I got like 500 likes. And I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, that's great. But then I'm thinking, like, I hate that's important to them and that they do feel like they have to filter themselves. So, And one of my big goals with Bright Girl is to build that confidence so that they can just feel like good, like they are enough on their own. And that, besides the filters, we so often see young people feeling like they need to put on these layers of makeup. It's the foundation and the powder and everything. And I'm a big fan of natural skin. So I'm sitting here talking to you. I have nothing on my skin except Bright Girl moisturizer. And that's it. So like let's empower our young people to like be so healthy and great at baseline that they have that confidence. And it is so much like so far beyond appearance. That's not what we are talking about. We are talking about health and confidence and wellness. And then let's take the appearance priority out of it and allow them to feel that self-worth and good enough as they are and not feel like they have to change it through the makeup and filters. I mean, let that be optional, I should say. Not that they can't. Everybody can express themselves through makeup. I'm all for that, but I hate it when they feel like they have to.
Well, and I think, when we're talking about adolescence and we're talking about those teen years, it's so much about that external validation. And I think what you're trying to say is, how do we create that internal validation for them? So if I'm doing something that's about self care, then it's going to matter more to me. And I'm going to be the one who's in control of how I look or don't look, because these steps I'm taking to create this image of who I am on a more authentic level. And then if I'm doing those self-care things, then I'm going to have an internal validation that's going to feel much more rewarding than any of those external validations I can have.
I love talking to an expert in this space. You just said like all the things that I wanted it to say, Sharon, but you put it so much more eloquently. Yes. Yes, because like you have that expertise. But yes, that's exactly the goal. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Like, do you think it's more challenging for our teens to be building that confidence nowadays than it was 20 or 30 years ago? Or is that just like our perception as parents?
No, I think there is a difference, but I think it's because whenever the social constructs shift and what is valued shifts, the teens are going to shift to that value. Whereas, say, 20 years ago, the thing might have been how your friendships, your internal things. But now it's so much more difficult, I think, because people are having relationships via these electronics. So it's not even in person. So it is a different shift. And I think even in mental health, we're looking at, how do we look at that and how do we help still embrace the change, but do it in a healthy way in which we're still encouraging people to have that internal peace, so to speak, and not striving for something that it's really become a lot of that external validation. Whereas I think 20 years ago, you would get internal validation by the sports you played or the groups you hung out with, or it was just different. And neither it's not good or bad, it's simply different. And as we have these differences, it's kind of like you said, 20 years ago, we just didn't have the knowledge of the skincare, of understanding it's not drying everything out. You got to hydrate things. And when you think about that, that makes perfect sense. We hydrate, plant looks droopy. What do? You don't go take off, say, "Oh, well, those leaves are almost dead. I'm just gonna take them off and have a stem left." No, you hydrate it, and guess what it does? It comes right back.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, I don't know, that's my professional opinion on I don't know.
No, it is. I use that analogy a lot with our skin. It is like a plant, and if you don't water it enough, then it gets dry and brittle and gets irritated. Yeah, you're right. I think the thinking has come so far, and our goal as parents, I'll speak for ourselves, is just to build up that internal confidence for our girls so that they feel like they are enough. And there are just so many aspects to that, but it can be challenging and it's certainly a difficult world. And anything, like you said, that they can do, those things that seem hard to them that
Mhm.
they then conquer and accomplish that builds so much character and so much esteem. So that's something we're always telling them. Like things that are worth doing are often hard and they take a lot of work and practice. But when you conquer it, that's an amazing feeling.
Well, and I think too, I always work when I'm working with adults that have children, I always tell them, you have the potential to become the greatest role model for your child. And the thing is as the parent, you have to be willing to educate yourself on the things that are different and if it's skincare, then say, "You know what? Let's do this together. I need to work on my skincare. Mine's gonna look different than yours because of my age." So you can develop these things and it becomes this educational thing together because I don't think the child wants the parent to get skin cancer any more than the parent wants the child to get skin cancer. But it's also, I think, that journey together, and you can't, as a parent, sit there and say, "You need to take care of your skin," and you never see your parent wash their or take care of their skin or never wear sunscreen. It just doesn't there has to be more of a congruency, I think, with it.
Yeah, you're so right. We have to walk the walk in all ways with our own, all of our habits, everything from how we exercise, how we eat, and skincare is a big part of it. You're mentioning that made me think of something that I find so valuable with our teens and tweens when so many of them are interested in caring for their skin. Many of them have an interest, they're seeing things on social media as parents, I think one of the best things we can do when our young person comes to us and says like, "Hey, I want to try this brand," and we're looking at it and we're like, that's in thinking to ourselves, that's the worst thing for your skin. Like, I don't want you to have that. We should never just shut them down. We should say, "Oh, tell me about that. Why are you interested in that brand? Where did you find out about that? Like, what do you know?" Starting that conversation and really being open to their feeling and validating what they're saying, and then kind of exploring a solution. So maybe as a parent, you're like, there is no way in the world I'm buying that brand for my kiddo. But like, then like, oh, well, let's look at these other brands. That is something like it's a real challenge that I have found so often in my practice among fellow moms, grandmas that are looking to what skincare brand should they buy for their young person? And that was another like foundational motivation for Bright Girl Skincare is to take the guesswork out for parents because there are thousands of brands out there. How do you know what is good for your teen or tween or your college age student and what is actually going to harm their skin? As I was mentioning earlier, there are many skincare products that can make young skin much worse because of their skin barrier and skin microbiome. So, with Bright Girl, we kind of take all that guesswork out. We've done clinical studies in the teenage population to prove the safety and efficacy. Everything, of course, is clean and pH balanced and paraben free, no hormone disruptors. So, let's just kind of take all that guesswork out and give parents and teens a safe option that's also really cosmetically elegant and very elevated. And that whole experience of self care is going to be so above and beyond for our young people that they are going to be excited and really take ownership of caring for their skin. Did you guys get the Bright Girl products to try?
No.
Yeah, okay. I think they're en route to you. But yes, so we need to get those in your hands so you can try them yourselves.
Yeah. You know what I think is interesting? I'm sorry about that. We often talk about ages and stages of development. And so oftentimes I think, and I always say this, I believe that parents are doing the best job that they can in those moments with the knowledge that they have. Because parenting is very difficult and always understand I bow to that because it is a very difficult job. But when I'm working, I'm trying to teach them ages and stages of development. But I think it's really interesting that we're talking about ages, stages of development in the mental, in the brain, and all of that, social emotional development. But I don't know how many people realize that your body, in moving more into the body and how it develops as well, because we talk about when your hormones are changing, what does this really mean internally? But when you're talking about the skin, and I don't think that people are educated in that area, that our skin is still young too, so it's not developed.
And that it changes with different things that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's such a lack of education. I mean, I'm learning a lot today. So, okay.
Well, that's good, and I'm so happy to hear that. No, it's, the reason why we use certain products on our children when they're babies, and that changes as in their toddler years and then in their childhood years. But it is again, I think it comes down to a few basic principles. One is that skin barrier, which is just not fully developed until we're in our early 20s. So it that is why a lot of young children are more susceptible to eczema and sensitive skin and allergies, etc. And then many times as we reach adulthood, those skin issues start to kind of settle and resolve themselves. The other important thing is it relates to hormones and kind of that idea of everything working in symphony, like as a symphony, right? Like everything has its part and you want every instrument to play its role perfectly so everything's in harmony. That's how I like to think about our skin microbiome. So we have all these bacteria and yeast and fungi that live on our skin normally. There's actually trillions of organisms. It's so cool. But when we are not using the right ingredients, the bad bacteria and organisms get out of that and they can grow more robustly. And then the good ones start to kind of wither and die. And that's when we can run into issues with like skin infection, acne has some roots in that general idea. So it's kind of maybe a better way to like relate or a better analogy is it's like our gut microbiome. And if we don't nourish and feed that properly, then things get out of whack. And I mean, you guys know that sets the stage for a lot of inflammation and health issues and difficulty tolerating certain foods. So you have to feed it with the right fruits and vegetables and the right ingredients, so to speak. And our skin is actually very much the same way. You have to feed it, quote unquote, with the hydration and the proper nutrients that it needs. And those needs are very unique in the childhood and teenage years. So let's give it ingredients like in the Bright Girl line, for example, we've got, aloe and chamomile and ashwagandha, turmeric. These are fun ingredients for our teens. Like they love talking about it because they're learning all about ingredients and they love the knowledge that comes with that. But also like, oh, my skincare has turmeric in it, and that's really cool. But it's really good for their skin. It's like a vitamin for their skin. So you can still make it fun. It doesn't have to be a bland formulation, but really age appropriate so that you are feeding those specific needs that the teens have during those years.
So, how did Bright Girl come to be?
Well, it's really the intersection of my career as a dermatologist and skin cancer surgeon, and then my most important role as a mom of three teen and tween daughters. And it's really the intersection of those two worlds. As we talked about earlier in the podcast, every day in my practice, I'm seeing skin cancers that could have been prevented and hearing at least one patient say, Dr. Casey, I just didn't know how to take care of my skin when I was younger. I just had too many sunburns. We didn't have the right ingredients. And then as a mom, I was actually struggling to get my own daughters, which broke my heart as a dermatologist, struggling to get them excited about their skincare. I would bring home all the dermatologist recommended brands. Most of them were unscented and they came in bland white bottles and they didn't have fun ingredients in them, and they were like, this doesn't smell good," or, that package is just blah," and they weren't really connecting with it. So I thought, like, there has to be a brand out there that's, like, really good for their skin, but they're gonna be super excited to use, and I looked and looked, and I couldn't find it, so in 2019, we started, I said, "Okay, who better to bring this to the market than a dermatologist?" And I assembled, I mean, it took 3 years of research and development, finding the right cosmetic chemists and packaging experts and designers, fragrance experts, really like putting all these components in place, doing the testing, getting feedback, altering the formulations until we had something really spectacular that we launched to market in 2022. We went direct to consumer first, got some traction there, and then I went out to the dermatology community and had thousands of dermatologists trying Bright Girl because I thought And dermatologists are the most skeptical, like discerning group when it comes to skincare because we get pitched everything. And there are so many brands, and we're always like, no, no, nothing special about that. That's not good. When the dermatologists were like, this is different, this is amazing, we want to carry this in our office, we want to use this for our kids, I knew we were on to something. So I'm proud to tell you now that Bright Girl is recommended by thousands of dermatologists nationwide. It's carried in hundreds of dermatology practices across the country. And I think for good reason, because it is really catering to that younger generation. The other thing is that I can only see so many patients in my practice, and you guys can relate to this. Like, there's only so many hours in the day. And it's the same reason why you guys have this podcast. We want to reach and help more people than we can ever possibly see in our practice. And that ripple effect of creating goodness and helping, and then maybe that person you helped help someone else, the impact of that is tremendous. And that's the real mission here. It's not about selling lotion and cleanser and sunscreen, it is about creating a movement related to skin health.
I love that, and I think that that basic foundation of providing that education is really key, and I love what you said earlier about having the conversation with youth about, like, so if they come to you with a product or that, because they don't even realize how much they're influenced by the marketing aspect of it too, because I know I remember reading in, like, Cosmo magazine or those things about some of the products in there, and they come up with some of the coolest names, and, "Oh, cupcake this and whatever that,"
Right, bubble dream, like
Yeah.
fluffy.
Yeah, so I think that's really cool because you look at that and you're drawn in by it, and but you don't know enough about that product and that, so I think that's really cool.
Thank you. Yes, there's a lot of amazing marketing out there. There's no doubt. And, it comes in cute colored packages and it looks fun. And I think with Bright Girl, you can see the products behind me. The packaging is cute and fun and colorful and engaging. But the true magic is the formulations within. But you gotta cater to both aspects for our young people. And you'll also find on the boxes, there's educational messaging in each step. For example, yeah, so we've got like a pH scale on the side of the box, and it talks about the skin pH and how that relates to products. On our sunscreens, we talk about SPF and what does SPF mean, and how do you apply that. So when you pepper those little educational messages along the way, it's so much more like interesting to them. You can't throw too much at them at once, and you can't, like you guys were saying earlier, you can't just be like, well, take care of your skin. That's too general. But it's like, oh, SPF 30 means that you're blocking 97% of the sun's rays, and it's the comparison between how long it takes your skin to burn with the product on versus without it. So headed giving them that deeper understanding, I think really makes those messages and that information stick better.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the other thing is I hope that everybody understands that it doesn't really matter what age you are. If you never did a lick of skincare your entire life, today's a good day to start.
100%. You can be 86 years old, and if you want to start your skincare today, you're a step ahead with that. So it is never too late.
Because, yours is kinda geared more toward the youth, but I think the real message is anytime that we invest in who we are and do the research, get to know your own skin. It's just amazing, but I think it's just one of those things that we expect other people to know about or take care of for us. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and again, it can be so confusing too, but you're right. It is like one of those things that again feeds into the self-care, the confidence, those daily rituals that we perform. And again, not any different than you if you're somebody who likes to take a walk every day or you enjoy your morning coffee routine. What are those little spots in the day? And Sharon, you can elaborate on this more with your expertise, but like what are those little things in the day that like really make your day a little happier. Like what fills your cup, I think is a good way to say it. So that you, as you go about your day, it's like, oh, I've had my coffee and I really enjoyed that. And now I'm energized and like ready to start the day. Those little routines and rituals. And I think skincare is often woven into that.
Well, and I think oftentimes too, I think it's a double-edged sword for women because if they're doing the skincare and they're investing in that, there's often those people who will sit there and call it vanity. And so it's like, I wanna look good, I wanna feel good, and now you're telling me I'm vain because I'm investing in me. So I think there's also those things that come into play,
Mixed messages, yeah.
and I think that
Yeah. Is
figuring it
that like the mom guilt that set like the mom guilt that we feel that like we should be doing everything for everybody else and that anytime we take 10 minutes to take care of ourselves, like we should have given that 10 minutes to someone else.
it's so funny, it goes along I right before this, I was just doing a talk on Noon Vibe, and it was called "Oh, What a Feeling," and that's what it was. What are those little things that you do that when you do it, pay attention, and if it gives you that feeling of giddy or whatever on that positive thing, if it gives it to you, then do figure out how do I make that a repeat? You know what I mean? What do we do? How do we repeat that? And I think for most people, they like to feel beautiful or worthy or whatever that is. And if you don't feel like you can do it on your own, then seek out the help of the people who can help you do that. Reach out, figure it out.
What are the things that you guys do? What's something that each of you does every day that's like that fill your cup, like positive thing that you look forward to?
Oh my goodness. We start our day with gratitude and we end it with gratitude. That's been since 2010. Our morning coffee,
Morning coffee.
because that is our creative time. It really is. It's where I think we do our best, don't you?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's our probably most enjoyable time. We sit there and create and, just bounce ideas off one another and of course we love coffee, that helps.
That's the biggest thing. She makes a
Uh,
mean cup of coffee, man, I'm telling you.
what's in your coffee? Or are you a black coffee drinker or what?
Honey and almond milk and yeah.
So yeah, but I think it's once again any of those things, and I always tell people, and this is such a big thing for our podcast and anybody who listens, gratitude is such an important part of that. And if I can be grateful for the fact that I have water to wash my face to start with, start simple, man. It's not these
Uh,
grandiose things.
No, it does not have to be. Yeah, so often we think it has to be this big, very, yeah, transformative thing. And you're right. And it is so, oh my gosh, I love that you said that you're focusing on the gratitude mindset because it shapes each of our days and it is so important. And I try to remind our girls about that. It just take those wins that like when they come along, like, oh, we've got a day just to like hang out and veg today. This morning I went to the gym with our 11-year-old earlier this morning and like on the drive home or when we got home I like stopped, I parked the car, like I gave her a hug. I'm like, we have the whole day together, like we just get to like stay in and just hang out. And she was like so happy about that because our weeks are busy and sometimes I'm not with them as often as possible. But it always, for me, it always comes back to like, the family's here, we are happy, healthy, like I can walk where I need to go, my legs work, I feel good most of the time. It's so I try not to take those things for granted and really try to kind of pay back and express that gratitude to God or the universe, whatever you believe, but really like being intentional about noting that.
And I always tell people, it starts with being able to every baby step is still a step. And when I work with people, I say, it took you a while to get here. It might take us a while to get where we're going, but it's all the journey. And I think even when people are starting new regimens like a skincare thing, it's if you do maybe you start off and maybe you do only 3 nights a week instead of who cares? That's still 3 nights that your skin got the care that it needed, and you have gratitude for that. And the science behind it is gratitude really does change the way in which our neurotransmitters fire. So there's science that goes with this. It's not magical thinking, but it's better when you think it's magical, I think.
Right, but no, it's evidence-based. Have either of you guys read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear?
Mm.
I would highly recommend it. I think it feeds very much into this conversation. So atomic meaning like at the atom level, tiny micro habits and how you implement those. Like one of the examples he gives is if you haven't flossed your teeth and you want to floss your teeth, start just flossing one tooth a night, and just like you're saying, like if that's all you can do, like that's it. You don't have to floss your whole mouth. Like start flossing one or two, but how we build upon those simple things. Like, maybe you're just putting on your moisturizer every day. Maybe you're just doing your skincare once a week, like you were saying, Sharon. It's like those little micro habits that then build into something much more. I think along those lines, it's very important that as we implement these changes, that you have ways of experiencing immediate positive feedback too. So when we worked on the Bright Girl formulations and I was working with our cosmetic chemists, I said, our cleanser has to like suds a certain amount. If it's not sudsy, like people aren't going to like it. They're not going to feel like they're getting their face clean. Their skin has to feel like so replenished and hydrated after you put the moisturizer on. I also chose to put fragrance, so natural fragrances in our products. Synthetic fragrances are tricky, and as a dermatologist, I do try to avoid those because they can be very irritating to the skin. But natural fragrances are across the board very safe, and they do provide that immediate positive feedback, and individuals love and kind of look forward to that. So when you build that into the routine, they're much more likely to return to it because they're getting that instant gratification. And then over time of using the products maybe for a week or two, they're going to notice those changes in their skin. So you're getting that more of that long-term gratification. And then of course, over many years, we see those benefits of implementing a skincare regimen. But so you've got to have all those steps implemented, or else it's a much bigger challenge to be successful.
Awesome. So happy you joined us. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I really feel like it will resonate with people because it really is just that thing of just start small, do that, communicate, and feel good about yourself. And it starts sometimes the thing that we see the most is our skin. So let's make it look good, man. If that's what you, I should say healthy. Let's be healthy.
Healthy, yes, it was skin health, yes, not about appearance, but and for all those reasons that we mentioned, because how that impacts our mental health, how it impacts our internal health, that it is so much more than just a superficial practice. It is much, much deeper than that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Yes.
Likewise, likewise.
Thank you so much for joining us. And also, where could people find you?
Yeah, so we are on social media at Bright Girl Beauty, and it's just like it sounds, BRIGHT, Girl Beauty, all one word, on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. And then our website is just brightgirl.com. And then you can find Bright Girl, as I mentioned, in hundreds of dermatology practices. We're also at Macy's, so you can go to Macy's.com, Nordstrom.com. Beauty Space by Space NK has us in about 300 Walmarts across the country, and Amazon. So you can buy us and the website or any of those retailers.
Awesome.
We will have that website in the description. So
Yes, and
thank you again.
thank you. Very grateful you joined us and, you know, that you kind of listened and found us because now we at least can put you out there to the people who listen to us. And it's just this really great way of making connection and helping people get closer to that authenticity that I think internally we're all seeking.
Well, in the spirit of that gratitude mindset, I am so grateful to have connected with you both and with your amazing community. So thank you for the opportunity.
Wonderful. And thank you so much to all of our listeners. As always, we are extremely grateful for you, and we will be back. So thank you, and you guys have a great week.